I would love to employ a business development manager, right tomorrow. But I'm on kind of catch-22 at the moment.
So I'm Matthew Cox and I'm a business strategist. I've run and grown multiple businesses over the last 15 or so years. Join me on my journey with helping other entrepreneurs figure out what their goals are, how to set them and how to achieve them. So we're now going to get stuck into the podcast. Grab yourself a coffee, put your headphones in, go for a walk the dog around the field, whatever it is you want to do. I really hope you enjoy this and you can glean some useful content for us as I help this owner figure out their strategy and reach their goals. So today, campers, we've got Andrew Tucknott on with us from Tomsit's Multi-Distributors. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and help Andrew today with some of the issues he's got. So he's got a multi-million-pound business, but he's just purchased it as a management buyout and he's struggling with his time and also his transition from a business development manager to the MD of the company. So hopefully this is some really useful content for you. Let's get stuck in with Andrew now. Right, welcome Andrew. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Hopefully we can have a look at all your bits and bobs and your questions today. So tell me a little bit about your business, sort of in a kind of, elevator pitch style, 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes or something like that. So tell us a bit about Tomsit's.
Okay, let's give that a go. So we're a general road haulage business based in Newhaven in East Sussex. We've been established 45 years now. Originally in Seaford, back in 1979. It's when Chandler and Tomsit, the timber suppliers, split. And Ernie Tomsit asked my dad if he wanted to run a transport business, and he said yes. So he quickly outgrew those premises, moved over to Newhaven on the East Quay. I remember as a little kid, lots of lorry loads of oranges and fruit and things like that. And drivers didn't help ourselves, they probably shouldn't have done. And then they moved onto a purpose-built property in 1987 onto the North Quay, and we've been there since.
Okay. Is the Chandler's thing, is that the builders merchants now? Yeah. So quite a big split then, isn't it? So two fairly substantial companies formed out of that.
Yeah, at the time maybe not so, but yeah, you're right, over time they've got pretty substantial.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Okay. And you've been in the business since? On
and off, about 28 years. I look back before I came here today to see, because I thought I might get asked that. I've done other things. I've travelled a couple of times worldwide. I've been a nightclub promotions manager and a DJ. Then came back after our last set of travels, which was 10 years ago. Yeah. And been going since.
So I have a question that I like to ask most of the podcast guests. What were you like at school? What was young Andrew like?
Andrew was easily distracted in most of my reports. I had a good set of friends who were a lot of fun, and I was great at finding class. All the teacher said, yeah, he's good, he does work, but it was outside of class, the homework that didn't get done so much. I was played a lot of sports when I was young, a lot of golf, a lot of tennis, a lot of football especially. I didn't have there's a hard line between the school gates and home, and not a lot of homework got done, or not to the standard it should have done probably.
I think that's quite common in this sort of area really, that schoolwork is especially among boys in that kind of era really. The kind of schoolwork thing comes secondary to life skills and so on, but presumably some of that stuff helped you. The school of life stuff. I don't know.
I do. About that. I do feel a lot more street smart than others. It's a different set of skills, isn't it? You learn how to you sort of compensate for any lack of academia by getting on with people and getting people on side and collaborating and that's the way I sort of look at it.
Yeah, it's probably very similar to myself. I mean, I did actually go to uni, but it was more just a self-gratification than actually something I wanted to do, just because I wanted to know I could learn to that level. But very much more school of life, streetwise type stuff rather than kind of formal education. So
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, I do feel sort of battle hardened.
Yeah. So I've got your questions here, or some of the bits, and we'll sort of dive into them. First thing to touch, congratulations, because I hear basically what you've done is a management buyout, essentially. So kind of talk us through that. I know you're kind of fresh off the press almost.
Yeah, absolutely right. So back in around August last year, the then managing director, Steve, had an offer on the table, written offer, but he didn't really want to sell it to them. He wasn't sure what they wanted to do with the business and that sort of thing. He wanted it to, sort of remain and it was and grow. And he basically said to me, I'd rather sell it to you. So if you can raise the funds, then you can have it, at this price. And I thought, okay. And I went away and I spoke to accountants and some other people, and we managed to raise finance for it. And that process didn't start until November. But then it didn't complete until end of February this year. Okay. So it's quite a long process for quite what I regarded as a sort of simple business. Yeah. It got quite complicated quite quickly. And so Steve finished end of February. I took over beginning of March. And it's kind of been good because our outgoing MD lost a little bit of interest in the business over the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah. And he pushed some of his jobs onto responsibilities onto other people within the business that are still there. Okay. So that worked really well for me, not being an experienced company owner. Yeah. And it gave me that space to really think and continue what I've been doing in the run up to the sale. And in terms of his, does he have any ongoing involvement? Is he tied in for a period of time or anything like that? No. Okay. No, he kind of left and said, he basically said, if you keep paying for my phone, then I'll keep answering the calls if you need me. That seems pretty reasonable. Yeah, not bad at all. No. And the management structure at the moment, how does that look? So obviously you're the MD. Yeah, I'm managing director, and then we've got operations director, Adrian Tolley. Mm-hmm. He's another reason why it's working at the moment. Yeah. It's almost not like a traditional director's role. He's kind of hands-on. He likes to know what's going on. Yeah. He's involved in everything that happens in the traffic office and the business. He's looking to sort of step out of that a little bit, so that he can almost have a fresh pair of eyes on how we do things, processes, that sort of thing, how we can improve the customer experience along those lines. But at the moment, we're trying to build the business, build profit, so that we can do that. We can bring other people into the business to sort of fulfil those roles. To get that kind of management team and those out of that operational roles, really, isn't it? That's right. And then we've got our workshop manager, John. We've got 3 technicians in the workshop who maintain all our own vehicles. And we've got Dave Englefield, who's warehouse manager, who is been a bit of a godsend at the moment, trying to get our new business get set up and going. And we'll come on to that in a bit. So primarily with Tom Sitz, you've got your kind of, forgive me if I get this wrong, but your sort of long haul or pallet haulage style business, and then you also have the MOT repair centre type stuff going on as well, don't you? Yeah, so at the moment, we specialise in palletised distribution. Yeah. I would say at the moment, 90% of our vehicles are kept local, delivering network traffic and collecting from our customers. And then the rest of the fleet is the more general long haul, like you mentioned, with bigger consignments, full loads, bringing full loads back into the area. Yeah. And then, we maintain all our own vehicles and trailers, do our own inspections and MOT preparation. But we're actually, because we've had to downsize quite a lot over the last few years vehicle-wise, the 3 technicians that we've got have now got time to do third-party work. Yeah. So we will eventually be doing MOTs, but that's a little bit further down the line. For the time being, we're more looking at vehicle inspections and brake welder testing, running repairs, things like that. Well, I quite like that, because I think, like you touch on it in your questions about the industry, in itself going through some changes and things, and you have to
be able to evolve if otherwise you'll just evaporate. And by, obviously you've taken your fleet and reduced its size, and then making sure those vehicles are like fully packed up all the time, and they're not, delivering one pallet in a, I don't know, I guess you have a various array of vehicles in different sizes, but to then go, right, well, we've got spare capacity, so we need to look at other ventures.
We do. And we are running to capacity at the moment. We couldn't afford to get rid of any more vehicles. So we're definitely not going to do that. But we do have these fixed costs, like the yard itself. It's massive. We've operated almost 50 vehicles, plus all the trailers to go with it at one stage. So we have to make that pay as well. So we are opening up a depot parking facility, which is the correct term for it, where we've been working very closely with DFDS, who run the New Haven Dieppe ferry service. Over the last few years, they've lost a lot of their yards down at the port to extra checks, customs checks and security, and then they've lost their parking spaces. And they've lost customers because they haven't got the facility for them. So they were over the moon when I approached them and said, I've got this idea. So they've been fully supportive of that. They've been talking to all the drivers that come through to see what they want, make sure we get that right. First time for them with parking and costs and facilities and that sort of thing. And they're going to be contacting all their customers and selling it for us as well.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of the yard and stuff like that, presumably that's leased off of a landlord or something on a long lease. You got a fair amount of time on that, presumably.
Yeah, we've got 7 years left on a 10-year lease.
Okay.
Yeah.
And no option to buy that at all at any point, do you think? Or
well, they own pretty much the whole of North Quay Road.
Is it New Haven Ports and Properties?
It's not. No, it's now you're asking Gladstone Properties.
Gladstone,
they're called. Yeah.
So a fairly big outfit then.
Fairly big outfit. I kind of feel like we're just a figure on an Excel spreadsheet to them, and it wasn't a problem. Rolling the lease last time, so I can't envisage a problem last time either.
Okay.
So that allows us to make longer term plans. Like a 10-year plan, rather than operating to trying to just reach little goals all the time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if the opportunity ever comes up, then you should always try to seek that, because it gives you that like mega security as well as a big asset to hold on to as well. And lenders really like it when you can demonstrate that you've operated a business for a long period of time and demonstrated it's successful and profitable, and you know what you're doing. Then they'll lend you money because you're going to be the business that's operating out of that particular premise, so therefore it's very guaranteed that you're going to get that rent money back and forth. And probably the rent you pay on it will be more than a mortgage. I mean, obviously you have to work those commercial loan, work those things out. But owner prop co situations are quite favourable for lending if it ever does come up.
Yeah, that's good to know.
But obviously it's a fairly sizable site, so
yes, it really is.
It'd be a pretty big acquisition, but one worth pursuing if it ever was to come up. So,
definitely. Yeah, we would definitely look at that.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go on to look at some of your kind of goals. So you've got your kind of 1 year goals and your 3 to 5 and your 10 years.
Yeah.
So your immediate goal is to Tomsits Group Limited to a new subsidiary. Is that for the MOT type centre, is it? Or what's the thinking behind the group?
That's right. So when we did the sale of the business, the accountants recommended we open a new group, new business, Tomsits Group Limited, like a holding company. Tomsits Distribution then becomes a subsidiary of that. And now with this idea of the truck stop and workshop opening to third party work, let's open Tomsits Services Limited, form a new company. And then we thought, we've already done it, let's do it now. because if we do it at a later date, there's going to be a lot of unpicking. Probably.
Yeah, there's a lot of tax implications. If you try to move companies under a group name at a later date, you have to apply to HMRC for stuff. I mean, we can't give you tax advice on this show, but it is complicated because we've gone through that process of putting a load of stuff under the group. So you do have to apply and basically justify and say, look, it's not avoiding tax, we're just tidying up the group sort of thing, and they have to buy into that. So
yeah, that's kind of a lot of thinking behind it. Just keep it tidy, keep it separate. That's the lorry park. Money's coming to the lorry park for that. Money's going out of the lorry park for maintenance and whatever you. Then because of the spin-offs that we'd get from the lorry park with the running repairs and vehicle maintenance, that's where the workshop comes into it, and that's why that's coming underneath that part of the group as well.
Okay, so that's your kind of year one goal, is really to tidy up that sort of stuff, and then get into your kind of get your workshop up and running, and the 20 spaces. So, but you're saying in a year's time you want to get to or near to carbon emissions. Your path to achieve B Corp certification.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what B Corp certification is, but I presume that's some sort of industry specific award or something.
No, it's not industry specific. No. So B Corp certification, they just reached a landmark of 2,000 companies signing up, becoming B Corp certified. It's quite difficult to get to. You have to take steps to get to it. It's especially hard for a transport company because they're emitting fumes all the time. But it is doable. So, like you say, the Thompson Services Limited, getting the workshop off the ground, that's going to happen over the next 6 to 12 months. In the meantime, we have already started this. Step one is carbon footprinting. So they're going to count all our greenhouse gas emissions.
Yeah.
Step two is then to come up with a carbon reduction plan. And from that, we'll be able to demonstrate where we were, where we are now, what we're doing now, and what we're going to do in the future as well to get to net zero. But that won't be, actually getting to net zero won't happen for, I imagine, 10, 15 years possibly. Okay. We'll have to see how it goes, how difficult it is. And the B Corp certification, once you've got your carbon reduction plan, you can see where the holes are. Then you can start to fill them or show how you're going to fill them and go out. And the reason we're doing that, because at the moment, the haulage this side of things is just so cutthroat at the moment. We've got just operators, competition around us just doing things at a loss. They're not even trying to make a profit, or they're getting support from their hub, so they're making big cost savings. So we just can't engage.
So part of this journey to the B Corp is to cut costs as well, is it? Presumably, because you mentioned in your thing about solar panels and stuff like that.
That's right. So we're looking at a power purchase agreement, a PPA, and that would include PV solar on the roof, battery storage, new heating systems, wind ridges for the roof to generate electricity from. Rainwater capture systems for the jet wash and toilets, that sort of thing, and you can put in some services as well for that, like roof repair, those sort of things. And if you're cutting carbon, you're saving money, basically, as a rule of thumb. So we can get all of that without any initial upfront costs, and then they just spread the cost over 10, 15 years, and it should be about
for a grant or something like
that. That's right. You can build grants into it. And it's flexible because you can change it over the years. And it's probably about the same as what your electricity bill is.
Yeah, because I was going to ask that, because on your questions, you've got some figures that you want to get to. Like, I think you mentioned 10 million turnover and with a 10% profit. That would be a target. And I just wondered how the journey to 0% emissions would sort of assist that, really, or how much that's going to actually contribute to that.
The way I see it, all sorts of businesses, all sorts of companies becoming obviously a lot more conscious of the sustainability and are on this journey. Thousands of companies becoming B Corp certified to demonstrate that they're a company that the public want to buy off. And B Corp to the sector of companies, they will gravitate to one another. So we want to elevate ourselves above the sort of cutthroat price business, and we will have a much more attractive proposition by demonstrating that carbon reduction.
So your kind of target audience, if like, obviously it's primarily B2B,
yes.
I would assume.
Yeah.
Are those more sort of sustainable companies, you kind of, I don't know, the ones that have got like a sort of more healthier image to them, really? Because I would say a lot of companies probably they're price driven at the moment in this current economy, so they might not value your efforts as much.
That's right. You're absolutely right there.
So what's the sort of plan on targeting those sort of companies then? Because you've got some in your portfolio already, I assume.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Those ones that actually value this stuff, because that's in my experience quite hard. You can set out with these like really ambitious goals and want to be like eco-friendly, recycle and do that, but if your customers aren't sort of seeing it and not in a tune with you, then it's kind of like it's a nice thing for you to do, but it's not resulting in the kind of increase in revenue, isn't it?
No, that's right. No, it is a plan targeted at potential customers who are already B Corp certified. We picked up 2 new accounts with both B Corp certified companies this year, just from talking about our plans and showing the route we're going down, telling them who we're working with to get us to this. So, it's a bit more, even though it's the route, even though it's all conversations at the moment and making these collaborations and these partnerships, once things are lined up, things will start happening quite quickly, and I think they can see that, and I don't think any of our competitors are talking about that. Because they haven't, because it does still need, and I said the PPA don't need any money up front, but it does still need significant investment, to get there. And I don't think there's, the haulage industry as a whole is pretty unhealthy. I don't think there's the profits there in most businesses to do it.
And who does that job in your business? So like, who's the kind of going and finding these new clients?
At the moment, it's me. But I kind of had a bit of tunnel vision lately in getting the truck stop off the ground. There's a lot more work than I thought it would be. But, it's all good experience. And I just think let's just get this done. Once that we can move on to the next step, the workshop, then we can move on to the next step. And at the moment, I'm kind of going through sort of wish list of clients, we'd love to deal with these people again, or we'd love to deal with these people for the first time. And we just sort of focus our efforts there at the moment. So it's not,
What about getting somebody in that can pursue those leads for you? Because it strikes me that that's like an avenue for you to get to where you want to with your turnover and the rest of it. But if you're concentrating on the truck stop and that's chewing up your time, then no one's going and pursuing those clients that you want. So if you had like a business development manager or someone doing your marketing or actively going and dealing with these things, and there's lots of tricks, I'm sure your industry is different, but you can, try and go and see people, it's better than sending emails, but
for sure.
Go and introduce them, handshakes and all that sort of stuff, and face to face, go out for dinner or whatever it is, and try and sow those seeds and work those relationships, at least, because they can take a long time, especially with big companies, from the initial like foot in the door essentially to actually some money coming back to you could be 18 months, 2 years, if they've got contracts that they can't get out of and they can't move away from, things like that. So,
that's right. And the longer it takes to get a customer, then the longer they're probably going to stay with you is my theory on it. And those are exactly the sort of clients we're looking for, that take a while to capture. And there's nothing more I'd love than I was the business development manager before I took it as managing director. So there's nothing more I'd like right now than to hire a BDM to fill my old role. But I'm in a bit of catch-22 at the moment. I can't afford really to put another $4,000 a month or whatever it is to get a BDM and then wait 6 months as a rule of thumb, I'm guessing, to see the results start coming in. And I know that they might have an instant impact. The way I'm feeling at the moment is it's kind of trying to keep costs down, and then I'll get more back involved in the sales side of things again.
Okay. Well, I think that if your previous role's like a BDM or whatever, that might be a useful use of your time. There's no one better to market and sell the business than like the owner or someone that's been and bred it and loved it and the rest of it, because you have that level of passion and people like to deal with yourself. So I think I would consider if you could get to a point where maybe you weren't where you could do that role and you weren't maybe so involved in the kind of day-to-day operating of it, and you could be your own kind of marketeer. I mean, I did a video on like how a coffee shop owner might go from like a coffee shop owner all the way to being like an investor or something like that. And
right.
Along that journey is a point in time where they have to make a decision as to whether or not they're going to market their business and be a master marketeer and sell it and the rest of it, but actually get other people in to do the more operational stuff. One of the questions on the thing is like, what on the sheet here is what do you spend your time in the day doing, and is it productive? If your skill set is like selling the business and the rest of it and doing it, then that's really what you should be doing, in my opinion, as in, you're the best person to do that possibly.
Okay.
Because then you're going to get your customers that you're targeting. You know what you're targeting. There's KPIs, there's driven and the rest of it. And then, at some point, whether you employ someone to do more of what you're doing now that's taking you away from that, or you employ that person, I think they're money well spent. And often in business, sometimes you have to, pay people and then it maybe even take less out of it than you, in the hope that, in effect, that's an investment in its own right for the future that should then return you to accelerate your business in that particular direction, really. Yeah,
I think that's good advice. I think it's, the next 6 months, things are going to look very different. We're going to have a lot more income coming in with the truck park and the workshop as well.
Yeah.
And I think then we'll be able to see, right, who do we need in? I can see it is an investment and we will get a return on that investment, but then we'll decide, right, do we need a BDM? Am I going to do the BDM role? Do we need someone to take on some of the responsibilities that the managing director needs to take on? And I, to be honest, I would probably enjoy the BDM role doing that again.
You're probably very similar to myself, really. I mean, that's kind of my primary role here, I suppose, is a business development manager, looking for opportunities, acquisitions, new clients, talking to people, getting new business in. It's my skill set, really.
Yeah.
And kind of driving the business forward. And then I built a team around me of people that will do what you would regard as the MD job, someone that does like finance, so I'm utterly reliant upon that person, heads of departments and the rest of it, so that then my 80% of my time I can be spent growing the business rather than operating it. I think with the truck park arrangement is a really good idea to get extra money in and utilise that space, but you do run the risk of getting bogged down with that and almost becoming like the operations, like you're that 80-20 that I referred to a second ago, like that dropping down and being like 40% and then 60% operating, and then you're in that kind of vicious cycle of you're not really putting any time in to grow it. And it's not that skill set isn't for everybody. Not everyone's got that business development manager type mentality to it. But if that's where your skill set lies, then I often find it is best with the owner, because they love it, and you've been in the business a long time. It's your baby. You know how to talk about it. And the numbers and the figures and what you can and can't adjust, and your target market as well. Those kind of high-end customers that you're after. It'll allow you the time to pursue that, and you'll see that back. So as quickly as you can get out of that operational stuff, I think would be good advice. Yeah,
I agree. We've got Elite MSG in today. They're automating the gates, putting in number plate recognition cameras. We're going to use Snap, which is an app that all the drivers have, the booking, the Lloyd parking space. And so what the plan is, or what I'm hoping, I guess, is that it won't need a lot of operational, and I can leave it to kind of run itself with the help of Dave and the guy who've employed as a night watchman as well. Yeah, I think as quick as you can get it to that would be a bit of
medicine or advice from myself really. Just because all the time you're operating, you're not growing, you're not thinking about where the business is going. And I mean, I don't really earn any more money now than I earned 5 years ago because I've just chosen to reinvest it in more staffing and the rest of it. And I think that, should pay back to us in growth of the business. I mean, staff here will tell you that all parts of the business have all grown massively over the last few years. Just because I'm somebody that's driving it forward, I'm not spending too much of my time operating the business. Obviously, I need a high level overview of things, but the skill set for me, I can sell stuff or talk to clients better than anybody else in the firm really, because I understand it and I'm passionate about it. Sometimes you need to get somebody in to do that if you don't have that skill set, but it sounds like that's a kind of your historic job, if you like. So
that's right. Yeah. And before I decided I was going to buy the business, I did another series. We do regular business reviews with our clients, but I did another one in there just to see how they were feeling about us and where they were at the moment. And, basically I was making sure they weren't going to leave as soon as, I took over or had any reason to, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So when we had these business reviews, I was blown away by positive feedback. It gave me more resolve to get this deal done. And I thought, well, am I ready to be a managing director, having done the BDM role for so long? And I had an interesting conversation with one of our customers, business owner, and he said, well, you're the face of the business, you're the one we see day to day. And he said, if you can make a success of a transport business, you can literally do anything. So
I think people get a bit bogged down with the sort of MD title sometimes as well. Like, you can have a business where the managing director is in charge of like the day-to-day operational stuff essentially. But it's always regarded as like, the highest person. And then you have like the CEO as well. And then you could be like the main shareholder. And people get really kind of fixated on like that you're the face of the business because you're the MD. So you argue like at my business, I am the MD, but actually slowly I'm just coming into a business development manager and I'm the CEO or the shareholder essentially. Moving away from that kind of like, you're definitely the face of the business because people get thrust into that position and it's maybe not necessarily your best skill set all the time. Like a lot of businesses never appoint a CFO because they're just like, oh, but the MD's really good with figures and they understand that. And it's like, well, actually you get to a certain size where you need someone, a CFO, to report to you and control all your finances and the rest of it and make sure there's some sort of implementation for invoices payable and receivable. I wouldn't put it past in the future if you kind of go, right, I'm not necessarily going to have the brand or title of MD. I'm happy to be the face of the business, but operationally wise, on a day-to-day basis, is that skill is better placed with somebody that's going to be in the yard doing stuff, looking at the staff, looking at the figures and the rest of it. And I'm out on the road hunting down these new ideal clients that you're kind of targeting, really.
Yeah, I like the sound of that, definitely. I think, again, similarities between the two of us there. That's how I see it. Unraveling as we go along. And like I say, Adrian's very much the hands-on operations guy, dealing with staff on day-to-day business. That's something. I'm kind of just off doing my thing at the moment.
And it might be that in the future that he becomes the MD because he's operationally doing that sort of stuff and you are essentially the business development manager, but still really senior in the business. It's just people put that kind of like gold star badge on the MD role, but actually it's a skill set role, I think, rather than actually, like you are the highest person where you're not. You can still be the biggest shareholder or a CEO. You still report to somebody. You don't, I've got businesses where the managing director in the business is not even a shareholder. They're just a director and then they've been promoted to managing director. And then I'm 100% shareholder of the business. So I'm just then reliant upon them to run it on a day-to-day basis. But from a selling point of view, that's a skill set of mine. So I can do that whilst they're dealing with the staff. So
yeah, that's the thing. I could never imagine Adrian out on the road, so he doesn't show his face much to customers anyway. He'd much rather, be in the office controlling everything. And I couldn't, although I have done the operational side of things for 10 years before I moved into sales, I couldn't see me doing his role at all, to be honest. So I think that's why it's working and going in the right direction at the moment.
Cool. Well, I think that, in my opinion, would help you on your journey to get to your kind of, I think you're looking at, roughly speaking, sort of a 10 million turnover with £1 million EBITDA profit. So I would definitely be looking at that as soon as you possibly can, really, to try and get kind of your best person, yourself, or you employ someone out on the road hunting down those ideal, make a list of your like client avatar. This person believes in carbon footprint, and they want to have it, and they are the type of client that's going to take 2 years before they come over to you, because they're the ones that then never leave, or it's a much more thought out process when they do want to leave and they're not happy. They actually come to you, sit down, tell you what's wrong, and you can give a chance to sort it out, as opposed to your more kind of fickle clients that want like a 30-day notice period or something. They're the ones that are always like, well, you're probably going to leave at some point anyway, because you've got a history of it. Okay. So what do you think your kind of 3 biggest challenges you've written in reaching those goals? You've written time, money and health of the transport industry. So expand upon that a little bit.
So the barriers to reaching that 10-year goal, 10 million turnover and £1 million profit. It's, the time thing. I've gone from having quite a number of meetings in a week as BDM to a ridiculous amount of meetings in a week. With so many plates spinning at the moment, we're talking to people who are helping with our carbon footprinting, people with our carbon reduction plan. We've got people surveying the site, surveying the roof. All these things are going on, and I'm not the greatest that I've found out that I'm managing my time at the moment, but I'm getting help with that with a coach. The money side of things is just the profit margin, basically, so meagre at this time. We've got to. We need some money to invest and to get into a position where we can attract these new businesses and grow our business. But it's finding really sort of clever and creative ways of getting people to collaborate without taking your money up front. You see what I mean?
Yeah. And I think there's definitely always ways. If you attract the right customer without the investment or whatever, then you only need a few of those, and then you can leverage those skills as well, because then you go to leverage those clients, right? You go to another client and go, we're already working with these. I mean, I've seen your brochure and you've got like people that you work with inside it. And I think that's a really, really big tool, because then if they truly believe in your like vision or whatever, then they'll see, oh, you're working with that. What? We're like that company. We want to be with you guys, because then it feels like we've at least got to that. There's a bar that's been set that involves working with Thompsons. So we want to achieve that really by working with you. And I think you can utilise that massively. So
I'm really pleased to hear you say that, because we're taking it a step further with the next brochure as well. We're going to have at least 4 case studies in there. Page on sustainability and the journey that we're on. Page on Pallet Force, our network partner that we belong to. I just think that's the best way of getting our message across, showing the people we are, the people that we deal with, how happy they are, that we're not afraid to put them, out there. It can be quite secretive, whose customers are whose in the transport industry, and you're worried about people, putting a target on their backs for someone else to come and have a go at taking them from you. But, we're confident, these companies have dealt with us for decades. And the feedback we're getting from is really positive. And, I have no worries about
and I think
other
it is
potential customers.
It's good to go around to your customers like you have been, that have been with you for decades, because I've learned I haven't done business forever, but I've learned that people chop and change, you've just gone through a management buyout. So you might go, right, we always use such and such for, I don't know, sanitary wear in the workplace.
Yeah.
And now that contract's been in place for like 30 years, but you're like, oh, they do my head in because I don't like the way they invoice or something. So then you move all of a sudden. And that's like, you can't control that because that's just natural progression of a business. It's been sold or management buyout, and that new management buyout is like a different kettle of fish. They don't have the same kind of connection to that long-term thing. So they're like, I think the part of the business development manager role is like nurturing those existing relationships, especially through those kind of tough times. Those businesses, they might go through their own financial health issues as well.
Yeah.
And then they start looking at everything, don't they? And then sustainability goes out the window, and there's something like, well, we need to cut costs. So we'll go with someone that's less carbon friendly, but actually it's going to allow us to increase our profit margins. Those are the things that, as a business development manager, if you've got your ears to the ground, you'll be able to hear those things and react to them quickly. Yeah,
that is so important. I mean, I know, from my experience taking over Tomsit's, we changed the electricity supply straight away. We, cut our telecoms bill, it's time when change happens like that, people are more open to change, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it's a great time if you get wind of potential customers that have got a change in management, that's a really great time to talk to them. And also if you're existing customers as well, we have poor experience there in the past where transport manager has changed, and as much as we tried to sort of engage and talk with them, and in the end they just wanted to cut money out of their costs, and that was it really. With basically, we've done a really great job, guys. We love you, but we've got to move on.
Sometimes you can want to save it too much. Sometimes you have to let it go, because they're on this mission of saving money, and it's very emotional because you've had the business for 30 years or something, and then they just need to cut costs, but you can't go that low, and you have to resist that kind of, I'll save it, because it's important to us. But at the end of the day, if they don't, they'll move off to someone else, and if they get a poor service, then they'll probably be back as soon as their stuff recovers for them.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And we've had some very positive experiences like that over the last few years. I can think of 4 customers off the top of my head that left us for cheaper prices, and they were back within 6 weeks.
Yeah.
They just, I think that maybe the other providers can't sort of do what we do as a benefit, like an added value service, with booking in deliveries and things like that. There's all extra charges for that people, whereas we talk to the customer first, find exactly what they want, and then we can price it accordingly and include also there's no surprises, once they start using us.
That's good. Yeah, I think, those sort of things are really important for businesses and totally underestimated as well, the importance of doing that, because it comes as a shock quite often, doesn't it? Like, oh, you're leaving, and then it's way too late then to react to that. So,
right.
So the other thing that you mentioned about maybe your challenges of reaching those goals is time, and you mentioned that a few times. And you're working with a coach, which is good. Tips on time or some medicine, if you like.
Yes, please.
I would definitely make sure all the meetings you have are, productive and efficient. They're not just on the hoc meetings, as you're walking about the premise and the stuff, and people go, have you got a minute, Andrew? Can I just have a chat with you over here? It's those sort of meetings that chew up the day. Ones that don't really have a beginning or an ending to it. You're just waffling on and going round and round in circles, or talking about the same thing you talked about last week. And make sure all the meetings have like actionable things from them, so you're then not, talking about it in the future. So, for example, some of the staff here might be like, oh, I'm stuck with this thing or whatever. And they want to grab me. And I'm like, okay, well, we've got like 3 minutes. That's all you've got. And at the end of that 3 minutes, we have to conclude what we're doing here. I don't want to be talking about it again next week, because then what happens is you get dragged in on 2 different types of meetings, covering the same thing. So that's important. And then put in your diary as well. Like, my diary's fairly packed out, but everything is in there. And if it's not in there, then it's generally not something that's going to happen. And I say, for a few examples, I don't try and squeeze extra stuff in there or go, I've got 5 minutes, I'll have a chat with you or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because you can't then action anything from those meetings. I mean, I don't know if you have a PA or anything like that, but they're incredibly useful again, in the future for you, depending on what route you go down. But if you promote your other guy to the MD, he may need a PA in order to follow up any of the things. Because I was finding that I was going to so many meetings and then I couldn't do anything. I couldn't action any of the points because I was like straight in, another one, and then you can't even remember what you were doing this morning. So
sounds like me now.
Yeah, so really use your diary, pack it out, make sure you got breaks in there and the rest of it. Try not to take random meetings throughout the day or various things or telephone calls, and don't be scared to push the conversation along sometimes, almost say, look, I've only got a few minutes left, or can we wrap this up or whatever, I've got to get on. As this a sort of inbuilt human thing to us to not want to offend people by shoving them along. But unfortunately, sometimes, they do. And in your role, people will respect the fact that you are a busy person. So they will take that from you. Maybe less so from a less senior person.
Right.
But definitely business owners, higher up people. If you say, look, I've got a lot on, I've got another appointment, I can't let, you've got to wrap this up or whatever. Inbuilt human thing is for us to think we're going to offend somebody, but actually you'll find most people, will respect that you've got other things to do. You're the MD or the business development manager or the biggest shareholder, whatever you want to cut the cake. You're bound to be busy, aren't you?
Yeah,
if you weren't, that would be odd.
Yeah, it would, it really would.
So, and then in terms of projects and stuff, obviously, if you haven't got a PA, we use a thing called a Trello board quite a lot. So it's like a digital post-it note board thing. So you can set all your tasks out and stuff like that. Obviously I've got another business where we do business outsourcing. So we help business owners, some people like yourself where you're too busy, but you don't want a PA. So you might want to outsource some of the stuff, and they use the Trello boards. They also use a thing called Clockify, so they can track how many hours they're spending with any particular client, so that we can then go, that client's chewing up too much time. So maybe we'll have a chat with them and be like, next time you phone, you do realise you're probably going to end up chewing some of your prepaid hours up or whatever it is, send them a bill for it or something, because it's not just they phone up and go, just want to bend your ear for 5 minutes, and then 50 minutes later you're still on the phone. It's those ones that you need to avoid.
Right.
Because they're literally just zap all your time out of the day, where you're saying meetings. I bet you probably at least 25% of them are spur of the moment or just not really part of what you were planning that day.
That's right. Or even if I have a clear day, then all of a sudden there's 3 meetings in here and no break between.
And I think you need a clear day, weekly, fortnightly, whatever. You'll know better than me. I mean, I try to have one once every 10 days where I have nothing booked in. And for me, that's a day where I look at investments. I actually literally just do that. I don't do hardly any emails, nothing at all. It's investment day, essentially, where I'll look and I'll be business development manager role, on acid here, because I'm literally just focusing on those one things without any other distractions, so that I then don't fill them. Because you're right, if you've got a diary and it's got nothing in, someone will come along and plonk something in or whatever, or you always put something in there. So
yeah. I'd love to see a BDM on acid.
Crazy stuff everywhere. But I think using the Trello board, definitely managing your diary a bit better as well, and trying not to take those sort of ad hoc meetings that just creep in everywhere, and definitely have that clear day, if you can put aside that for you to be right, here's my mini vision for the next month or something, or whatever it might be. Obviously, I'm choosing that to look at investment opportunities for us. So okay. So I think we've covered most of your stuff. So you've got I'm just having a quick scan here. So you've got delegating your time on a day-to-day. So most of the time you spend in meetings. I've only been in a job for a short period of time. Most of the operational side is taken care of. So working with a rigid structure makes things a lot more fun. Obviously, you're master of your own destiny.
Yeah, there you go.
And I think this is where your strengths lie in. And then bringing in the right people to share the vision. I think you're right. My solution, I think, or long-term plan for you would be definitely try and get somebody in or do it yourself, that business development role.
Yeah.
I do think that you'll reach your goals quicker if you do that. It might feel like a bit of short-term pain because you're almost employing somebody to do a job or the MD role or whatever it is that maybe feels like you're giving away your MD title or you're employing somebody and it's a cost you could do without. And you might have to almost take a bit of a cut yourself in that regard.
Yeah.
But I do think that would definitely accelerate your vision to get into that turnover figure and the rest of it.
Okay.
So I think that would be number one thing. And don't stray from your goal, your customers. Like, it's so hard in this market at the moment just to be like, oh, we suddenly need money and then we're going to sell our soul a little bit. But if you've got that vision of, that carbon footprint, those Corp B type customers that you want to work with, make sure that those are the ones you target. Do your little client avatar and make sure that they're the ones that fit in that gap. And travel up north or wherever it is, do your 2 hours in the car to go and see them and stuff. And I think face-to-face meetings, sowing those relationships and seeds and things is really important in your, definitely enriching your goal, because those customers are ones that you're really going to have to kind of work and mold into convincing them to come over.
Yeah,
so,
true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's most of the things on the list, really. I don't know if you had any other questions at all or anything else.
It's like an interview.
No. Well, not job.
Questions.
Is there anything else? I mean, I like all the stuff that we've talked about. I think definitely doing the utilising the yard and the stuff is good, but I just worry that you'll get trapped in on that. So and if you get trapped in on that, then you can't focus on the other main core bit of the business and reaching that target. It's almost it's like this is going to plug a hole and sustain us, but actually in order to grow you need to go and do the other thing and get out on the road or get somebody to do that. Yeah,
that's right. It's kind of like trying to put put something in place, a platform to build, adding to that platform, and from there, I can see Thompson Service Limited doing really well. And then you've got a platform to build from. I can go back to TDL, Thompson's distribution, and really focus on growing that part of the business, which is at our core. Really. Yeah, definitely. And we touched upon it in the break that we had in the middle here. You're going to use zero, I think, for your new business. And I think keeping on top of those figures and knowing and having those KPIs and going, right, we're missing them, we're not hitting them, or we are hitting them, is going to be really important for you seeing, especially a return if you do employ somebody to do the business development manager role or to take some stuff off of you so you can do it. If you have those KPIs, then you'll be able to see that it's working, and that'll give you a lot more encouragement. And if it's not working, it gives you more drive to make it work, because you're like, I've taken this person on or whatever, it now has to work. So it's my mission to to make it work, and I will go and sow those seeds and relationships and get the new clients. So we'll go out and do that. Brilliant. All right, well, I think that's pretty much it for the questions and the rest of it. So, been lovely having you on the show. Well, it would be good to have you back in a year's time. See where you're at. Let know how we're getting on. Maybe we'll come down and take some shots in the yard or something. Why not? I'm sure we'll have to wear a high vis and absolutely full PPE. But we'll come and do that in a year or something and see where you're at. That'd be great. Brilliant. All right. Cheers, Matt. Thanks a lot. So I hope that's some really useful information for you there. As you can see, obviously, in order for Andrew, in my opinion, or in order for him to actually achieve his goals, I think he's going to have to step away
from those operational tasks. It is inherently difficult for business owners to do that. I totally get that. And it is going to be a challenge for him. So it'll be really interesting if we can get him back on in a year's time, see if he's actually made that transition back into the business development manager role, or employ someone to do that, and really where the business is. I hope he doesn't get stuck in dealing with his storage yard and the MOT stuff. I really do hope that he goes and picks out those key targets. So hopefully that's a really good piece of information and useful for all business owners. But if you want to get on the podcast, please don't forget to go to the website, www.matthewcox.biz. That's with 2 T's, Matthew, and fill in the form, and then we'll get you booked on. The lovely Hayley will send you a form to fill in, or if you filled it in online or whatever, and then we'll get you booked in somewhere and you can be on the show and we can work through your problems together. So hope you enjoyed the content. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the channel.